It's no longer news that Chelsea would not play in Europe next season. Finishing 10th on the EPL table is so disastrous, like so bad. But the question will be, what's really, really wrong with Chelsea? And I think in this video, we'll take our time to look at what is really wrong with Chelsea. What's the problem? Why is Chelsea not performing how many of us expected? Now, in the just concluded season, going to the season, everybody expected Chelsea to be that team that would all look up to. Chelsea would come out, win the EPL, compete. But imagine finishing 10th. Imagine the beginning of the season where we saw how the likes of Joao Pedro was doing so well, doing so well from the Club World Cup, coming into the new season, and we're like, man, Chelsea will be on real super fire. And the question will now be, what exactly happened to Chelsea? On this video, we'll break down the Chelsea's problems and we'll try to analyze it. Of course, don't forget to comment, subscribe as we break down Chelsea and what's the Chelsea's problem. Now, I will start talking about the Chelsea issues from what I call the foundational problem. Maybe we'll try to talk about four problems Chelsea have and the reason why they finished at that position and what they must do if they really, really want to stand out. Now, let's start with the foundational problem. The foundational problem of Chelsea right now definitely would be the fact that the Abramovich factor. And I will explain that. I'll break them down, and that might be long, but I'll break the Abramovich factor, which is like a pin in the Chelsea, pin in Chelsea's neck. That up to now Chelsea are still struggling with that. Now, the Abramovich era brought what we call the glorious Chelsea. Now, 85% of Chelsea fans got to be Chelsea fans, or most Chelsea fans during the Abramovich era. The Abramovich era defined a special era in Chelsea's football because that era was an era strictly on how can we win trophies, how can we dominate in football. Now we knew all what happened, then to go back into the whole gist, and now Abramovich is gone, and we have a new era right now. This new era right now is not the era of glory. This new era is the era of how can we be able to make money. So moving from the era of glory to the era of let's make money, and this is why we could see this particular Chelsea team struggling. Now, this era wants to give a player a 10 years contract, pay the player 50,000 pounds every week, and want to make money and sell the player in a short while, so they can't get quality players because definitely to get the quality player, no quality player would or good or world class player would come down and sign a 8 years or 9 years contract with you. Definitely all be average players. So that has been the first factor that Chelsea are now switching from the Abramovich era, which was built on glory, to a new era of Bolly where it's just built on making money, and this at the long run has affected what we call the glorious Chelsea years. I think that's the first point. Let's talk about the second point. I think the second point would be the Maresca mistake, and this is why Chelsea is struggling. The Maresca was one coach that was being able to even struggle, being able to produce results even if the club was more of a monetized system. Now, under the man they talk about the super coach you call Maresca. Maresca was able to get results, maybe not the results he wanted, but he was able to manage the players. Maresca got some players he could understand, some players he could work with, and now those players were understanding his own system. But something just happened. They felt Maresca was not the right man. And I'll not even blame the board because many Chelsea fans also called for the head of Maresca. Maresca had to go. When Maresca went, the problem went from bad to worse. And that's what we are seeing right now. So the Maresca factor is another major factor that affected Chelsea, because Chelsea came to the new season with the Club World Cup glory. They were super excited and they believed that yes, we could achieve everything, and they allowed Maresca go. And that thing for me, that was one of the biggest mistakes. Now imagine saying Maresca, you allowed go. Maresca now would be the coach of the City team. Maresca was ready to build Chelsea. However, as I said earlier, which is a major point, Chelsea's new kind of mindset is let's make money and let's not win trophies, or let's not win trophies like that. If we don't win trophies, fine, as far as we make money. So Maresca is another big mistake Chelsea as a club made. And of course, the third point will definitely be Chelsea's inconsistency. And I'm one person, if you follow me for several years, maybe on Facebook or some other platform, I've always stressed the fact that one of the greatest ways for you to be able to win trophy or be consistent is having a consistent first 11. And I always say this, who is Chelsea's first constant? Who is Chelsea's first 11? Who are Chelsea's first 11 players? I always stress that when it comes to even defenders. I always talk about the fact that go back and check history. The clubs who have won or did so well in a particular season, when it comes to their defense, they always have maybe this partnership. Maybe you notice that two central defenders who they work with. Ask yourself the question, who is Chelsea's two central defenders? you would come up with debates because there was no partnership. So the major partnership even starts from the defensive lineup, which Chelsea lacked. So a team that lacks first 11 definitely will struggle in the field, and that's Chelsea's issue. Chelsea lacked the first 11 because Chelsea fans could not go into a game and say this is our first 11 which player will play because you don't know who will play. Chelsea could go and play a first 11 today and play the next game and they switch and play it with seven different players. So that issue was about the fact that Chelsea bought several players. Yes, true. After the fact that Chelsea did not have a could not know how to mix those players in through always doing try by error. And the fact that if you want to do well, it's football. If you want to do well, you must have a consistent team that you point will be that Chelsea depend on one player who did not turn up. You ask me who's the player, his name is Cole Palmer. Now Chelsea has depended on Cole Palmer in the last like 2 seasons, and Cole Palmer has become their miracle or their golden star. A season without Cole Palmer performing well was going to be a disastrous season for Chelsea, and this will happen. Now, the dependence on one particular player as a star man, as a man who would give assists and score goals, did not work out for Chelsea. Definitely, Chelsea had to struggle. So the Cole Palmer factor was one very, very big factor that many of us would agree that it affected Chelsea as a club. Chelsea could not be able to stand still, could not do anything because Cole Palmer was not in the picture. Cole Palmer was forced to play different roles this particular season, and he could not perform in any of the roles. So the Cole Palmer factor was on that major factor that brought Chelsea to their knees when many expected Cole Palmer to be that super player. Of course, he did not deliver. I think these are the clear points for me why Chelsea did not perform, and of course, not going to play in Europe when many saw them as contenders after winning the Club World Cup in US about some few months few months ago. So what do you think? What do you think are the major problems of Chelsea? Share your own points. I have 5 points or 4 points we could call them. The first point would be the Bally era versus Abramovich era, which comes with two different mindsets. The second era would be the fact that Chelsea has struggled to have a first 11. And of course, if you must do well, you must have a first 11. And with third point, we spoke about Maresca as the miracle man. And Maresca was sent out. Maresca at least had a dream. I was able to at least patch things up with the vision of Bally, but he was sent back in. And of course, the fourth point definitely would be the fact that Chelsea depended solely on one man. And the man's name is, talk about Cole Palmer. And the season without Cole Palmer meant that Chelsea was going to definitely struggle, and Cole Palmer is struggling. Cole Palmer would not even play in the World Cup. Who would have believed that Cole Palmer would miss the next World Cup after what he did in the 2 seasons ago? But this is reality. This is football. So these are the reasons why Chelsea are struggling. What do you think are the reasons why Chelsea are struggling? Drop it in the comment section.